Hello everyone, this is Xentax and today I am back with part 2 of the unused enemies and bosses series in Bloodborne. So the first part was received very well by everyone, and that encouraged me to work even harder to try and show you the unused content in the best way possible as soon as possible. In this episode we are going to be covering more unused enemies and bosses, but this episode has a lot of things that literally blew my mind when I found. So let's get to it, but just before that, once again, these videos wouldn't be possible without the help of id-daemon and Luxus18 for their huge help in providing the files and creating the tools to view the models. So now that's out of the way, let us get to business. So the first boss we have is one that I didn't believe it was in the files of Bloodborne at first, which is this guy. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the best looking bosses in the Souls series, and that might not be the actual look of the boss fight, but let me explain a couple of stuff about this particular boss before. So this boss sadly has no name, no skeleton, and no reference for it in the files. And also it has many missing textures, like when loading the model, like by default with the textures that are available, it looks exactly like this. So I took it to myself to try and rebuild the textures as much as I can, and I'd say it looks pretty fantastic right now. The model is super detailed, as you can see, as there is a dragon statue on the helmet which looks super cool, and like its tail is the bloom that is coming out of it. There are arrows which have penetrated its armor, and there is this huge slice in the armor on his belly, which indicates that this thing has taken a very heavy beating from a giant weapon, no less. And as you can see, it has a huge peg leg, which might give us some idea that maybe this guy development wise is related to German, maybe early on in the development. Now, this isn't where the stuff ends. As you can see, he wields a halberd, but the halberd has what looks like some sort of banner or war banner attached to it. Now, I didn't pay much attention to it until I saw the model coming right after this boss, which is this. Just look at how epic does this unused horse look like. Just look at the amount of details on this thing, from its flesh and the fur and the cloth on its back. It is just a wonderful looking model. But I think it's not just any random horse, it is more of a more prepared for battle horse. And then it hit me that the Golden Knight from before was supposed to ride this horse and be one and battle together. Now, I know you're saying you are crazy, Xentax, Dark Souls or Bloodborne would never do something like this, or they've never done something like this before. Well, I thought the exact same thing, but did you actually know that in Dark Souls 1, the Dark Wraiths were supposedly riding horses, and that there is even concept art for Dark Souls 1 for this? So it is indeed possible that they wanted to do this concept again, and it's highly plausible. Also, what made me think this is that the cloth on the horse has a big dragon drawn onto it, which gives it a link to our friend clad in dragon armor. Also, when I was searching through the internet on horses and knights on them, I also found this picture, which is like the same kind of, he's wearing the same kind of helmet and everything, so just reinforced the idea more in my mind. The render you are seeing is something I made to convey what the boss might have looked like, and it looks amazing. Just imagine fighting this guy, even if it was meant for him to be on a horse, or even if it wasn't. I'd say these two unused models are one of the best designed bosses in the Souls series. I made a poll which you can vote in by clicking on the small I button in the top right hand corner on YouTube, and I want your opinion on what you think, whether you believe that this was supposed to be one boss or that they are completely separate. I really want to see what you guys think about this. Also, one last thing about the knight model is that it actually has two more weapons with it, which are an axe and a sword, and especially the sword, I am 100,000% sure I saw it somewhere in like a different Soul game, but for the love of me I can't remember where. I saw all of the swords, but I just can't find it, but like my mind says that I know this sword. So now that we are done with this one hell of a boss, let us move on to a possible unused NPC. So this NPC is named in the file Slug Princess, and no, not the Slug Princess you are thinking about. So this NPC doesn't have much information about it in the game, but there is an old folklore tale named Jiraiya Gogetsu Monogatari, which translates to the Tale of Jiraiya the Gallant, which talks about a guy named Jiraiya who can summon a giant toad with his lover Tsunade that can summon a giant slug, and they fight against a guy named Orochimaru who can summon a giant snake. Yeah, Naruto is heavily inspired by it. But back to the actual Slug Princess, her name is Tsunade and she is a beautiful young maiden who has mastered slug magic and is able to transform into a slug or summon a giant slug. Now, a lot of Japanese games are heavily inspired by the old folklore of the Japanese, and Bloodborne is no exception. And as you see from the model of the Slug Princess, you can see that she has bandages on her eyes and her legs are chained as if imprisoned by someone, and her body looks like she is half slug, half human. Now, the closest link I found to this was the items related to slugs, which are directly related to the Great Ones and especially Ebrietas. So it might have been that this Slug Princess was actually one of the Great Ones and had some story for her, and maybe she had some contact with the Great Ones from the bandages on her eyes that maybe she was seeking insight, but sadly there is currently no dialogue or references to her in the game, or maybe there is some secret dialogue in one of the level files, but we still can't listen to those files, but I will update you guys when we do. Maybe her idea was later improved upon in the DLC with Kaz and her child and stuff, because there's a lot of sluggy stuff in the final part of the DLC. Next we have a monster which is linked to the demon I showcased in the previous part, but this one seems like a lesser variation, and this is exactly what the game calls it, Lesser Demon. So this one is much thinner than the previous one I showed, and it seems like this one was supposed to be an enemy and not a boss. Same as before, it has one missing head, but it is available in the files and can be placed in its rightful place. But the design of the second skull here is different, as it has some kind of small horn on its nose, and the horns on top also look different. The axe it's wielding looks very interesting, as you can see it is somewhat curved and looks pretty cool. It also has this small fire effect on it, which, as I said before, a lot of the unused enemies has this fire effect on them. And the final unused enemy we have isn't something major, but it's an egg, and it's referenced to in the files as Screamer. It has an AI which it runs away and stuff like that, and it does have sound effects, but as I said, we still can't properly listen to them. I honestly don't know what to theorize about this egg, so I'll just leave it up to you guys. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and make sure to like and share this video and subscribe for even more Bloodborne unused content. There are still many stuff to cover, like other unused bosses which are very interesting, unused armor sets and weapon variations, character dialogues which clear up some lore bits and are super interesting. So I'll be seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.